evening, everyone. Welcome to the public safety meeting for May. It's good to have everybody here this evening. This will be a fairly full agenda. We've got everything from ankle bracelets to dead cows tonight, so we've got a little bit of everything on this agenda tonight, so we'll move right on through it and get things taken care of it. We appreciate you also taking up part of your Wednesday evening to be here to make this all work for public safety. The first thing we have on the agenda is approval of our minutes from last meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I've reviewed the minutes from the last meeting and move that they be approved.
Second.
A motion to be approved and second. Commissioner Sereno, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I believe we have a presentation this evening from Scott Cranmore, Tennessee Recovery Monitoring.
Thank you, sir. How are you?
Well, come right on up to the table, sir.
Thank you. My name is Scott Cranmore. I'm with Tennessee Recovery and Monitoring. The purpose of us being here tonight is to talk about a couple of things. One, the mayor has reached out to us and we are willing to purchase the ankle bracelets that are currently on shelf, the SCRAM devices that were purchased a few years ago when PCC and all of that. The second thing that I'm here to talk about is Senate Bill 806 and the resolution to opt into the Electronic Monitoring Indigent Fund.
Mr. Chairman, let me preface by saying to the committee that it was costing us about $186,000. We were losing, the county was losing about $186,000. And of course, you know, we had some issues with one of the judges that tried to say that because of the class action lawsuit that occurred last year, some of you all were here, all it said was that we could not do business, we could not contract with a third party like Mr. Cranmore in Rutherford County from that point forward. We're not contracting up front. We're not contracting with anybody. We're getting out of the business, and he has offered to buy the bracelets. So it's up to the courts at this point. He's one of several that they can refer to. Am I correct?
That's correct. In Rutherford County, primarily, I'm
They're the only ones
the only one authorized to do business with that particular product. I'm one of like 3 people across the state of Tennessee that could even purchase the CAM monitors from Rutherford County because you have to be an authorized provider. With that being said, we are prepared to do so. I guess I don't know how that conversation really needs to go, Mayor. Got some more of a...
I would just say that, Mr. Chairman, I would say just a motion would be proper to for allow the county to purchase for him to purchase the bracelets from us because we don't have any use for them at this point.
And that was a fairly good sized cost to the county.
Yes, sir.
When we're taking care of those.
And he's willing to give us a decent price. They're older, and he's going to have to reprogram them, correct?
That's correct. I have to pay 2 people, unfortunately, you all and then the manufacturer.
And your price was how much, I'm sorry?
We agreed, I believe, for $51,000 based on the number of bracelets that were left on shelf and ankle.
Mr. Chairman.
We have the budget chairman here, and he's seen that in the budget where it has changed from a price to a zero amount.
Right. I wanted to bring up that also working with the judges on this pretrial release program was also exposed to this. And basically, we're losing that much money per year. But if we don't do something, which right now we're not capable of doing it because we can't maintain these bracelets ourselves, it's going to cost us money incarcerating these people that could be out on the bracelets. So it's going to cost us $60 a day or more, whatever the sheriff's costs are, if we don't do something like this. And having said that, I want to make a motion that the county sells these bracelets. I believe that's the motion.
Okay, we have a motion, has a second.
Can someone just explain to me how the process is going to work now?
Mr. Cranmore.
Yes, sir. That was going to be part of my second part of the conversation. I figured we'd get to the money first and then deal with what we do as a whole. So Tennessee Recovery and Monitoring, we started in 2012. We offer the ankle bracelet for alcohol, the ankle bracelet for GPS monitoring, a handheld device, which is a remote breath for alcohol, and a drug patch for your drug offenders.
And we only did one.
And you all only had the one product, which was the alcohol ankle bracelet. So we have set up multiple programs across the state of Tennessee, from Memphis all the way to Johnson City. Currently, I have an office that sits right across from the square on the second floor, 105. Right next to the,
Sims.
yes, yeah, there we go, Sims Building. And my employee, Chelsea Johnson, she is here. We have a full-time employee here to monitor and maintain and report and give service to the courts, to install the bracelet, to report to the courts of any violations, drinking events that occur, compliance or non-compliant. We offer a full-service program across the state of Tennessee everywhere we go. We have about 20 employees, and we monitor right at 1,000 people across the state of Tennessee. So how ultimately it's going to work is the judges will continue to order the bracelet. That individual will either be required to make bond or will be released on their own recognizance. And then at that point, as a condition of their release, we would put the monitor on. As part of the pretrial program that was mentioned, we're hoping to try to be a part of that as well as that continues to kick off, because we do believe that pretrial with monitoring is the best fit. Pretrial numbers alone will show you about a 64% failure to appear rate nationwide. My monitoring program will show you about a 3% recidivism rate and failure to appear rate nationwide. So by coupling the two together, I believe we can have success here in Rutherford County. I believe we can reduce that $60 a day down. Normally the next question is what happens if they're poor and they can't afford to pay for it? I know that's everybody's question at some juncture when they learn more about the program. In 2016, we attached ourselves to the Ignition Interlock Indigent Fund. It used to be formerly known the Ignition Interlock Indigent Fund. It was only for Ignition Interlock participants. If you could not afford to pay for it, the state of Tennessee would have funding and would assist. That assistance came from DUI funds and fees, $37.50 for every DUI fund or DUI offense that was a conviction went into this fund. That happened for years. In 2016, we attached ourselves to it, opened it up for electronic and transdermal monitoring. Now it is called, 3 years later, as of July 1, the Electronic Monitoring Indigent Fund. It now not only covers, as of July 1, and I have that legislation with me tonight to pass out, it not only covers transdermal monitoring for alcohol, but also now GPS and also drug monitoring. So when we're talking about pretrial release, house arrest, getting inmates out of jail, primarily product that is used is GPS monitoring. Well, now if those individuals cannot afford to pay for it, the Electronic Monitoring Indigent Fund will pay up to $200 per month per device. Okay? Up until July 1, the state of Tennessee has been paying that bill based on fines and costs across the state. As of July the 1, they are now asking the counties to do a cooperative deal. They want basically a 50-50 split. So for every offender that is on for a month at $200 a month, they're asking the county to pay $100 of the $200. That comes out to about $3.33 a day, still about a $56 savings from incarceration versus paying for a monitor on a that are indigent. Currently, out of the 60 people in Rutherford County, there are 9 individuals that have been deemed indigent. I believe that number would probably go to about 30 to 40 if we utilize this program, and maybe even as high as 100, depending on what the jail population with pretrial misdemeanor offenders and indigent folks are. It is not a requirement that the county or the state pays for the program in its full capacity the entire time the person is on monitor. Maybe it is that the county gives them a kickstart of the first 30 days. The courts are willing to pay, but that's normally dealt with by the judges. All I know is that if there is not a resolution passed by every county in the state of Tennessee to opt into this program, then you all as a county will not be able, and your judges will not be able to order an offender indigent to be funded through this program. They will not pay. They will not give the reimbursement for the offender if you all decide not to opt in. I've had many conversations across the state of Tennessee. Currently, there's 300 offenders that if every county in the state said we're not opting in, would go back to jail across the state of Tennessee. Rutherford County has 9 of them. So that's the second reason I'm here tonight, is to discuss and any questions that you all may have about Senate Bill 806, the fund, my program, any question at all, I'm happy to answer. Lots of information. Sorry.
Questions?
One comment, Jeff, what was happening previously since last year, I think that court decision came down, Scott, last July maybe, that we were involved in that lawsuit. It was before I got here. But in my research, what was happening was the word spread, and people were just going in front of the judges and saying, I'm indigent. And that's all you got to say. And they say, go on down there and get you down to Trey King's location here on Main Street, get your bracelet. We were not following up with that. We just put a bracelet on. We lost them. They walked away with them. They cut them off. We weren't checking to see whether or not they were truly indigent, which these folks will, because of a third party, and they don't want to lose the bracelets. And you also want to collect the rate, $10 a day or whatever that may be.
That's correct.
So some people may have had membership at the country club and could have afforded to pay, but they just went in front of the judge and said they're indigent. So that's out of our concern. So now, Mr. Director, as of this coming Monday, you won't have to worry about that. Okay, so as the new director, Commissioner Irvin, as Director of Probation, you won't have to worry about trying to track people down and find out whether they're indigent or not. That's your job.
Yes, sir. And we're happy to do it. I mean, we do this program, again, we do this program all across the state. Grundy County, Tennessee, not far from here, the poorest county in the state. They operate about 80 monitors. The jail just got built about 2 or 3 years ago. Got a bed facility of 110. He's not had more than 85 people in his jail ever because of our program.
And Scott, weren't we the only county providing our own bracelets?
That is correct. Well, you're one of 2. Hamilton County, but they've done it for years. Community corrections there, they've always run a house arrest program. They do a pretty good job. They have an entire team dedicated, just like our company does.
Which we didn't have.
Yeah. Outside of that, out of the 95 counties, there were 2 of you all running it yourself. Most of it is private industry.
We didn't do a good job. That's why I elected to get out of the business.
Well, I do have a question, if it's all right, Mr. Chairman. On our pretrial program, we didn't discuss all the pretrial people automatically getting bracelets. I would assume that would be up to the judges to make that to their discretion. And I want to make sure that if I'm signing up to this, I'm not signing up for any pretrial or all pretrial to automatically get a bracelet.
No, I think, but based on that new piece of legislation, what that's going to do is going to force the judges to schedule another date for them to come back, for them to try to verify whether they are not indigent or not. Am I correct?
Correct. So basically what happens, we get an individual out of jail, they sign our contract, we put them on bracelet. They're normally required to pay an enrollment fee in the first week up front. If they're able to pay it, great. If they're not able to pay it, we try to designate a time and work out a payment plan with them. If they explain, hey, I don't have a job, I haven't worked, I get Social Security, welfare, whatever it is they get, and this is how much I make. Well, we're then going to identify that on an affidavit of indigency. We're going to have them fill it out. We're going to fill out the court order for the judges. We're then just going to simply ask the judge, hey, judge, maybe in a break or something, this individual can't afford to pay for the bracelet. At that point, the judge will sign off on it. We'll send it to the state, and we'll wait to be reimbursed from the state of Tennessee at that time. And I do apologize if I alluded that every pretrial offender would automatically get that. That was not my intent.
Sounded
But,
like it's
but the,
what you were asking.
the option would be there for those individuals if you wanted it, because it is all discretionary to the judges if they want to use it as a condition of pretrial release, bond condition, or probation. So,
I don't have a problem with it as long as it's up to their discretion.
Absolutely.
But for us to automatically sit here and say we're going to, throw another
No.
$200 a month at the bracelet for somebody that may not need it.
Absolutely not. No, we only want those individuals that would qualify and actually benefit from it. I mean, alcohol and drug addiction is the reason why we got into this business, because we are seeing a difference. But on the GPS side of things, ensuring that someone is at home or where they're supposed to be, especially on the jail overcrowding and jail programs, work release programs, that's a very beneficial product there as well.
And I even went as far as asking that question of what happens if you can't collect and they don't pay. They eat it. We don't.
That's correct. All invoices now from alcohol monitoring systems comes to me.
Other questions? Ready to vote?
Do you need, well, you need that vote to sell it. And I think you'll need a resolution, correct, going forward for us to opt in, Mr. Chairman. You'll need a resolution for us to send to the state.
You're going to have two, I would think, one for the resolution,
That's correct.
and then one for
The motion
we
before you.
motioned and we
Correct.
sell those. That's what we have on the floor right now.
Yes, sir.
Is that we go into this program and sell here.
Your motion is strictly to sell the bracelets to the Tennessee Recovery and Monitoring.
Right. Okay,
You need anything else?
I think that's it. We'll do a second motion for the resolution dealing with the Senate bill.
What about a price? Need a price?
You did have a price of what, 51?
$51,000 was for all bracelets that.
Let's go ahead and put that price in there, if that's okay with your,
And that's based on, I believe it was 140 bracelets.
is that okay for your motion, Commissioner P?
I tried to get 55, but it wouldn't go.
We can make that part of the motion. Yes, that's all right with my
Okay.
motion.
Okay, let's call the roll on that.
Commissioner Urban?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes. All right, now we'll need a motion to approve the Senate Bill 806. The Rutherford County will be a part of that. We'll opt into that program. Do I hear a motion?
And this is just for the indigents, is that correct?
Yeah, where we can actually pull down from that and share in that fund, electronic indigent fund.
In that case, I'll make the motion to approve this
Commissioner
resolution.
Pete?
Second.
And we have a second, Commissioner Santo. Any discussion?
Does this need to go to budget? Or no?
Yes, they'll both need to go to budget. I think, well, we'll send both these to budget. Since money is not involved in this one, I think we'll just ask for your vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr.
We
Chairman.
appreciate it. Thanks, sir. All right. Now we'll be dealing with Motorola and the new communication system. Gentlemen, I think each of you have the cliff notes on our communication. If you want to read the full volume, here it is. It's not something like 500 pages, I think what it is right here. Or we'll read it to you tonight. That's what we want to do.
I think I'll spare everybody that.
But I believe you've got a PowerPoint for us
Yes.
this evening too.
Very short, very
Okay.
abridged, almost like the executive summary you have before you. So again, I'm Alex Sherman. I'm with Motorola. We've seen each other quite a few times now. So I know the last time that we spoke, we needed to go back to the drawing board and see if we needed to add more sites. And the direction was to add up to 4 additional sites. And what we actually found that we needed 2 additional, well, we don't recommend going above 2 additional sites. There's a limit to the amount of RF you can have in an area. What happens is it becomes congested. So when you have signals coming from either side of the county, they'll actually create destructive interference. What this does, it actually creates a coverage rift throughout the county. So that's what happened when we went with the 14 sites. We scaled it back. We found 2 sites that fit the phasing delays. These are what we're going to refer to as the west and south new sites. So currently they are both grass fields, and then everything in this two-site ad has the tower, the building, and all of the equipment in tow. Okay? So if we look at our final design, what we have as the base proposal has remained unchanged from a site perspective, from what we've talked about all along. What we have discussed in the probably last 2 or 3 weeks is merging or joining systems with the Williamson County and Davidson County systems, the Metro Nash and Williamson County Joint Communications Network Authority. And this has come up and we've evaluated it, and while it is an option, what we have included in this proposal is something called Critical Connect. And what this does is, instead of joining Williamson and Davidson through microwave or hardline connections, we actually use a cloud-based service to do the exact same thing. Williamson and Metro Nashville are planning on buying this, and that's what we've utilized in this proposal as a way to not add an exorbitant amount of cost to this project and take care of the county's needs first. That's the main goal of this project. So I just wanted to point that out. So again, just real high level, all this is in the executive summary that you read, but there's just over 2,000 radios and flashes. This takes care of all the dispatch equipment at the ECD, the sheriff's office, and then the EMS relocation to the Murfreesboro headquarters. And then all of these services are included as well. PM, SI, engineering, training, and what we call staging, which, if you see in the pamphlet, is where we build all the equipment in Schaumburg, and then we ship it down here. It's all neatly cabled, labeled, and ready to go. It sits down here.
You said you've got a 10-site proposal. How many actual sites does the county have right now?
The county will add 5 sites to Murfreesboro's 5 sites. There's 4 existing Murfreesboro sites right now, with 1 to be built.
We would be eliminating the Tiger Hill site because Murfreesboro has a Marshall Knob site just a mile away. And also the, if I remember right, the Rockville site, commonly referred to as the Hudson site, will go away.
Correct.
It's an old tower that we acquired,
Yes.
so to speak, and that will go away.
Well, my point in asking that question is Murfreesboro City also paying for 10 sites, and we're paying for the same 10 sites? Or am I paying for 5 sites and they're paying for 5 sites?
There you go, yes.
But you've got a 10-site proposal that you're setting up here, or a 12-site proposal.
Correct.
And then your maintenance agreement is on 10 sites. So am I getting a maintenance agreement on 10, or am I getting on 5?
It's on 5 sites.
You need to have that in your book with 500 pages there. I didn't see that anywhere.
Okay, we can make that addition. So the maintenance schedule in the book, it's referred to as the 10-site and the 12-site proposal because that's the final
design
number
for
of
the total
sites.
site coverage.
So the Murfreesboro system has a maintenance contract for their 5 sites, and then what you see in this book has your 5 sites with the GeoPrime site. So it's everything that's contained or being added in that proposal. That's what the maintenance contract's for.
Well, all the proposals I've seen have got me paying for 10 sites.
Okay, we'll make that clarification. But that is.
I mean, you could cut the price in half of that, make me feel a lot better.
Wish I
That's
could.
where
I
I
wish I
did it.
could.
But you know, I think it's kind of misleading there, saying
Okay.
I'm taking care of 10, and it's actually 5, so.
Right.
Or
Five
possibly
are
7.
already designed. If you look back on this page here, Commissioner, you'll see the blue sites are the ones that Murfreesboro's already built and painted.
Well, that's my point. We shouldn't have to pay
We're not.
for 10 sites.
We're not, we're paying for the addition of 5 sites,
Correct.
plus all the mobiles
And
and
it's
portables.
clear as mud, or I wouldn't be asking this.
If you look on page 4, that's the blue and the gray. We're paying for the gray.
I'll make that distinction. We'll have that added, so it's very clear.
And I've got some more questions coming up
Okay.
whenever you, and I'm not trying to mock.
I've only got some more
your time,
slides.
so.
Yeah, you're fine. So this is what we have for the 2 additional sites. This is what we were asked to go look at, and this is the additional coverage that we gain. So these sites are very tall, they're 350 and 400 foot towers. It's something called an MSB, which is a Motorola Standard Building. Essentially, this is a pre-built, prefabbed building that you can just drop in place. An example of it's down there on the left, so everything's pre-wired. There's a generator, there's an uninterruptible power supply, so all of the power needs are taken care of. And in this coverage map, what we see is south new along 231, and then west new out towards the west of 840. Those are the two sites that we identified that best suited the addition instead of. We also looked at a site called Northwest New and East New, and they did not add as much as the other two sites. It was a degrading plane on cost versus reward.
That happens to be where I live, though.
Correct.
So,
And one thing to note, though, is where it is white does not mean there is not coverage. It just does not meet the DAC 3-4 at 95% reliability.
so it depends on where you live as to whether those sites are really not necessarily helping you directly, but they'll help the county as a whole.
They will help the county, and that's, to look where that site was, it actually began to degrade where Long Ridge and Lynch Hill. So putting a site there helped it in the immediate area, but actually degraded the whole rest of the south part of the county due to the phasing. And that's what we found. So when it's all said and done, this is the final price that we arrived at. So when we originally set out, this is the 16.6 number is for everything. So this includes schools, this includes every radio, and the 5 additional sites to add to the Murfreesboro system. The additional 2 sites that we did not have last time, those come out to 2.36 million to arrive at 18.96 million for the 12-site proposal. So again, this is, the 10-site is my recommendation because I believe it will provide the coverage that you need, and there's always the ability to go back and add these additional 2 sites as well. But I would like to see the system coverage tested beforehand before we make that move. I think that's my advice, and going forward. So
It's the 16,600,000 with your financing, or is that's just equipment and what you're providing? That's not any kind of financing?
correct.
Okay.
Yep. So even if you did finance, it would still be 16.6. Or if you went through a bond or with a lease, it's the best price that we could get to. There are a few contract executions in there. There's about almost $1 million in timing incentives. One is to sign the contract by the end of June, and then the other is to ship equipment at the end of this year. As we are a publicly traded company, there's incentives for doing things in a yearly basis, and this is what my management has allotted for this system.
Another question for you on maintenance. Is that counting an on-site person that would be working on our system, maintaining it? Or is that in the other part of the agreement we'll be looking at?
So that's in your maintenance part. So we would have a Motorola shop, Nashville Communications. They will be on call. So they're going to be, if anything goes wrong, they're the ones that respond. They have a team of about 7 people that live around the area, 2 of which I believe are in Rutherford County. So that
The answer
fits
was
into,
no. So the answer was no. We're not going to have an on-site person all the time.
no.
Thank you.
They will provide that for probably a neighborhood of $120,000 to $30,000 a year or something like that.
And that's why I was asking if that was
You want
part of
somebody
this
just to live
agreement.
here dedicated to Rutherford County, I'm sure they would provide it.
And that is an option.
Well, if I have a radio system going down at a critical time, I don't want to wait until somebody drive in from Nashville.
Which
That's
Nashville
part of the
has,
reason we're even looking at doing this, so that's pretty critical to me if you've got somebody on site or not.
in which the South does have 2 people in the county. But we can certainly look
You
at
drive across this county at 5 o'clock in the evening.
It's true.
That's true whether they're dedicated by us or them or anybody, because I've tried it.
Well, that's my point. I mean, if they're in-house, they're here, or they can work on the system if it goes down.
It's still gonna take time to get to the site, though. I mean, I've tried running emergency traffic out South Church at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It doesn't work.
Well, so just for example, I think Williamson County is going to employ that approach where they have it's called a field service officer, an FSO tech, and that's somebody that's dedicated for 40 hours a week to work on your system. But in the advent of a 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning mishap, it would still either fall into their hands or to the local shop.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm not trying to be abrupt. I just,
No,
these
you're
are
fine.
questions I feel like are critical to
Sure.
get answered. So.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you might explain some of the redundancy, such as the microwave redundancy,
Yep.
when he goes out of trunking into,
So there are a bunch of fail-safes to prevent against something like that. In this proposal, there's voice redundancy and dispatch redundancy. So by voice redundancy, it means we have a voting site and we have a geo-redundant voting site, meaning it's in 2 disparate places. And this prevents against a single point of failure, as well as the dispatch centers have not only redundancies built into the actual equipment at the dispatch center, but then there's also equipment at both prime sites that allows for, if core connectivity is lost, it can fail over to either prime site. So the dispatch centers have 3 levels of redundancy, as well as having redundancy locally, as well as the voice redundancy has 3 layers inside of each prime site, along with another prime site that's located in a different location. So this is kind of in tandem with the microwave that is loop protected. So if a microwave transceiver goes out, it automatically reroutes to the other direction. So a site's not left alone. So for instance, in Metro Nashville, who employs this, they had a site where both of their microwave transceivers went out, but since they have MPLS, which is included in this design, which is multiple packet layer switching, it automatically rerouted through fiber and went all the way down through Williamson County's microwave loop and back to the Metro Nashville core. And they never even saw a second of downtime with it. So this is all I have. It was very brief. Does anybody have any other questions?
If I could just kind of show my ignorance a little bit. This price of 17 plus million bucks, that's the Rutherford County portion. And the city of Murfreesboro has some portion that they're going to kick in. And I don't really care what it is, but the other incorporated areas in the county, are they benefiting from this? And are they kicking in somehow, some way?
I don't know if they are kicking in. They will most certainly benefit from it, just from a countywide coverage standpoint.
But Town of Eagleville right now is presently the only municipality that will be using the system. And there's a lease agreement that we're looking at modeling after the state that Chattanooga uses in the Tennessee Valley area, how they lease the radio back to the individual departments.
Currently, I think, this is when we voted on this, when we had the choice between going to TACAN or going to what's referred to as the local system, which is Murfreesboro, which Murfreesboro is 90% or so built out right now. The other 2 entities in the north end are on the TACAN, either own or in the process of going to the TACAN system, which is the state system. We opted not to do that. However, one of the things that I've kind of pushed and asked to look at is, right now we're proposing to do this with ISSI, or Critical Connect. It's a cloud-based capability of linking things together. Well, you know, the cloud can be cloudy, and it's a lot better if you've got a string between 2 points, which is the microwave. So one of the advantages of tying in, at some point, tying into the Williamson, Davidson County system is to get a better connection and get some of the enhancement, because Williamson has at least 2 sites that provide coverage into Rutherford County, the Clovercroft site and the Pulltie site. Davidson has the Cane Ridge site. Most of you know where Cane Ridge is, up there at Old Hickory Boulevard and I-24. That covers well on down into Rutherford County. At some point, we would tie into that. Mount Juliet is tied in, built a site 3 or 4 years ago, tied into the Davidson County system. That provides some coverage on down into the lake area, and so on the extreme northwest corner of Rutherford County. At that point in time, I think it would be good. The equipment that the 2 entities in the north end have is easily reconfigured to work into this system. And it would be nice if we had a conversation with those entities at some point about buying into this system also, so that we wind up kind of the idea that's been started some time back. And I was working in Williamson County in 11 when some of this, 10 and 11, when some of this kind of dreaming started out. And before I came here working, and is to have a regional system, which again ties into the state system. The state system doesn't have the capacity to support the thousands of mobile units. I don't know what Davidson has now. The last time I was familiar with it, it was 6,000, 7,000. I'm sure it's a lot more than
Around
that.
16,000, I think, around the system.
Yeah, so, you know, a lot of units. Williamson, we're looking at 2,000 just right now without any growth, and I'm sure we're going to grow. So we're probably talking about 25 or 30,000 just in what would be a regional system, but eventually tie it all together and have a regional system. This gets a start, gets us taken care of, but then that's something we don't need to really lose sight of. So we need to really keep as a forefront of that this needs to happen. We need to become part of a bigger thing, and that allows for immediate, you know, traveling to Nashville, traveling to Lebanon, traveling to wherever.
Okay, so really, what we're saying here is countywide public safety radio communication system, and there's still going to be 2 entities that aren't part of the process.
Yeah, and Commissioner, I don't know how to, you know, I don't know how to accomplish that.
Oh, I don't either. I'm just trying to get it clear in my mind. So the answer is yes, Smyrna and Laverne are not participating.
At the present time, and
Are they going to benefit somehow, some way about what we're doing?
they could have units programmed over into here. That's a possibility. I'm sure that'll be part of all of our memorandum of understanding and agreement that Murfreesboro and Rutherford County decides on as to what kind of.
And they would have the interop. So that's the beauty of P25 radio, is that the interoperability is very alive and well. So you can go over into Williamson County and roam on your radio. They can do the same into Rutherford as well.
I'm not knocking them, not doing anything other than saying those 2 communities are part of the county as well, just like Murfreesboro is part of the county. And I just wondered if we had this agreement with Murfreesboro, do we have it with the other incorporated areas? And Eagleville, yes. Smyrna, Laverne, no.
Yeah, Eagleville, you know, you've got 1 or 2, maybe 1 or 2 units at a time.
I'm fine with all that, okay?
You know, I first got involved in public safety in the mid-'70s here, and with the state at the same time, and I really don't know how to break through that barrier of getting 4 major entities to get on the same page.
Mr. Chairman, in this committee, I think was it last month or the month before, chose to go with to tack on with Murfreesboro, as opposed to tacking with Smyrna and Laverne. Probably more first responder calls come from Murfreesboro City, so I think that was the decision this committee made to tack on with the city of Murfreesboro. And by being able to go on to their Motorola contracts, it's less expensive. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Well, they have the sites and these other municipalities do not.
Correct.
Or not as many.
I understood, the reason we went that direction for sure was the coverage. We could get better coverage. We could work better together because of the towers that we had and get what we could get there. And I think that's the whole purpose of what we're trying to work here, where we could work together to accomplish better response time and the whole process of what we're trying to do. That's why it's there and why we're doing this.
If you look,
When we were discussing this, you either done this one that's there, or where we're the majority of. So you had to deal with the majority of what we're doing there. When you mentioned Iggleville has always been on the Rutherford County system and what they're doing out there. Their police department, their fire department works within the county process that we do there. Their police department, they're also deputies with the sheriff's department. They wear 2 hats. Their fire department is also a volunteer fire department with the county fire department. So that's how Iggleville fits into this. So that's where that's at.
I've extended your short presentation, and I
No,
apologize.
it's totally fine.
No, you're getting questions out.
No, these are great questions.
I just feel like Smyrna and Laverne is part of the community, and I don't want them to be left out in the cold.
They will not. They will not.
if you look on page 10 of this presentation, there's a thing, he's provided the showing Critical Connect. One of the other tie-ins of Critical Connect that's being proposed is a tie-in to Tacken also.
Correct.
And the Critical Connect is priced in this proposal.
It is, correct. So that part's in there. The future, what Commissioner Gurley spoke of would require a lot of hardware and software adds to go to the Murfreesboro system to be able to join all 3 of those systems together. So this is it's a very viable solution. It's included in this proposal, and we'll do the same exact thing that for the regional radio system.
Well, exactly how much would it be to tie into those other 3 systems? The reason I'm saying that, your agreement here is $84,000 a year. If we do a 10-year agreement, that's $8,400,000. So that'd do a lot of tying in my book. So how much is it?
I don't have an exact figure to go along with it, but it's probably around $1 million in core upgrades. You would have RF equipment at those 3 sites or 2 sites that you tie in at. So that's probably around $300,000-$400,000 a site, and then
How many sites times 10?
No, so you would just do, well, either 2 or 3 additional sites depending on Cane Ridge, Poltite, and Clovercroft. And then you would have your
That'd
2
be 3
microwave.
sites, so that's $1.2 million.
So it's probably talking about $2.5 million, and to add.
You're at 2.2 right now, so
And
go
then
ahead.
2 more microwave hops, which are about $200,000 a piece.
So you're looking at $4 million, and we're gonna be paying $8 million, $400,000 at the end of 10 years if we tie into the
That's not going to need
Critical Connect.
So it's not going to, one way to reduce the Critical Connect is this is a 5 connect,
Yes,
We
so
can reduce that down to 2.
and go down
we
to.
can reduce it to 2, and it's about half the cost
Yeah.
for the subscription.
And that way we tie into Middle Tennessee Regional and Putakin.
Yep, and those would be your 2 tie-ins. The reason that I did include the Tier 5, it's the same hardware, so adjusting the subscription cost is just a matter of down-tiering or up-tiering. I wanted to show the Tier 5 because you can actually tie broadband devices into your system, and as well as Williamson, Davidson, and Tacken. So I wanted to have that option available. It's very easily downgraded, and yes, it comes in at about half the cost when you do that, down to a Tier 2.
So instead of 84, we're talking, what, 42?
About 40, I think it's about 45 a year.
That's going to help the sheriff's department, correct, as far as their tie-ins with web and everything?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, well, the sheriff's department, you would tie into Tacken with it, and as well as use your Tacken IDs too. And then you have a hardline access into the system. Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting that we don't connect to these people. I'm just
course.
be realistic about what it's going to cost us
Right.
if we tie into all of them versus if we put hard lines out there and had an agreement between all of them.
Correct. Yeah. So if we went with a smaller tier, then it would be, I guess, about a fifth of the price
On the Connect.
on the Connect. Correct.
On the 12-site option, for financing purposes, if we go in on the extra 2, doesn't mean we determine we don't need those extra 2. But it also gives us the ability to work towards that plan of merging in with the other systems, because that would give us the ability to put resources at one of these tower sites that we would use on a day-to-day basis, which then automatically just allows us pretty much just to take an Ethernet plug into our side, plug in their side, which would remove the critical connect piece for the Metro tie-in, for one example.
And that would do away with that cost of,
Right now, critical connect, to get rid of ultimately would be, that's down the road, because there's still options that allow us like to tie into your smartphone, which you can't do at that site. You have to have that piece of hardware.
Right.
Or to tie into Wilson, Lebanon.
well, that's something I haven't heard as far as an option, which that appeals to me because we need as much communication as we can get. And when our ambulances take off from here, it'd be nice if they were straight through all the way into Metro when they're going through. Or, if we're doing mutual aid into Wilson or Williamson County, on fire, and of course our police officers are crossing county lines in pursuit many times, and to have that continuous communication is important. So I can, up until you said that, I wasn't even interested in 12 sites.
12 sites for finance.
Yeah.
When I say that financing purpose, instead of coming back, like you say, a year later,
Well,
we need this now. We don't usually go back into the pot.
Well, that's a little more for me to think about too, so.
Correct.
If that's-
12-site option about equates to tying into with all the cost equates about the same.
And I understand that, but, my thoughts were, we were just adding 2 towers, we're getting more coverage. What he's saying is, we're actually, if we put the money, the funding in place for 12 sites, we could actually use that to co-op.
Potentially.
So you could take those 2 sites. Yeah.
And Williamson's and
Take that cost.
We could take what we had for the 2 sites that we
And
appropriated, and you could actually, if you didn't want to go to those 2 sites, you can use that money to do that exact thing. You can upgrade the floor with it. You can go to the Cane Ridge site, the pull type site. You can essentially, maybe we would change the scope and just do that instead.
The big cost is the core upgrade, that is the brain.
Yep.
Murfreesboro bought a 1-zone brain, and we need a multi-zone brain.
And that's been my thought all along. Should we pay that about $1 million more, and then we've got operability across all these sites? I'm talking about Metro and Williamson and these other, in our own county, Smyrna and Laverne.
You're the budget chairman.
Now there's,
Well, thank you.
in that upgrade cost, there is engineering, so there is engineering that's not attached to that core upgrade. So it's as simple as you upgrade the brains, like to say, all the engineers on the backside have to literally go in and up design that addition. So that's one piece that's added to it that is not considered in that core upgrade.
Well, to me, it's a no-brainer to go ahead and expand where we can. And whether we can afford to do that, that'll be for all of us to decide. Just because I'm as chairman this year doesn't mean that I get the choice.
Of course. Yeah. But I just wanted to make that available as an option for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, gentlemen, where we move from here? Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, if it'd be appropriate, I'd like to ask Kevin Lauer, our new director. He hasn't started yet, but he's here tonight. Let him be introduced to the committee and see if he has any comments, because starting on June 12th, he'll be kind of overseeing this decision. Mr. Lauer, come up, have a seat. He may have some comments. He may not know anything about radios. I hope that he does.
Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I'm kind of drinking out of a fire hose right now, and it's more like the fire hydrant. So I'm definitely trying to get up to speed on this that you all have been working on for quite some time. So I'm getting documents and spreadsheets and everything else and trying to get with that. Obviously, talk with our emergency services folks and see where they're at with it, and just try to communicate with you all. And I was told to hit the ground running on this one, so I've got a lot of homework to do in the next 2 weeks. But I'm here to help try to go through that, and obviously I'll reach out to others as well that I have worked with across the state to get some of their views and perspectives, and just try to bring as much wisdom as we can to this decision. This is a huge decision for the county, but we want to do it right.
Yeah, I think, Kevin, you said you'd reached out to Bill Jorgensen.
Yes, sir.
As you had, Mr. Chairman, on Williamson County, and
Yeah, we have
got some ideas from them.
Right.
And if we do merge, maybe it's the time to do it now. Go ahead and, if we're going to bond market, we might want to do that.
Personal gut feeling on this, we need to be talking to Murfreesboro City about this, because the difference will be their core. We're going to have to talk to them and
Year 3. Right now, they're not in position, nor do they want to approach this position because of the redesign. By year 3 of this program, everyone's in favor of moving forward. Because you're taking a system that, as Motorola likes to say, has not baked yet. Neither one has baked, has run long enough to solve any issues, and now you're going to walk in and redesign the whole thing. So if there was problems in that design, potentially, then there could be more issues. So they want to let it bake, and like I said, year 3, rock and roll.
One of the
And they're
problems,
in favor of that.
Murfreesboro has not integrated have not built. First of all, something I brought out previously is we've got to have a memorandum of understanding. And I've asked the mayor to get a letter of intent with Murfreesboro, that their intent between now and when we vote on this and their full commission, that they agree that we want to do this thing together. But they've got their 5th site yet to build, so they haven't integrated a 5th site. They've got 4 out of 5 sites built. They're still got to integrate that. We've got, and this is not going to, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you previously stated this is most optimistically an 18-month project, maybe going out to 24 months before actual total turn up and turnover. So this is not like we're going to buy it July 1 or we're going to buy it June the 30th, and by November we're going to have it on the air. That is not going to happen. And so I think what's being said is, Commissioner, is that we do this, we commit to doing it, but we take it in logical engineering steps.
Mr. Sandlin just informed me that the city manager for Murfreesboro,
Mr. Tyndall.
Mr. Tyndall, is tweaking the MOU as we speak. I was unaware of that. It's good.
And just to add something to your time frame, there are, kind of goes in line with the timing incentive for shipment of all the equipment. We can have all of the radios here and programmed this year. That
Well, I
is
think
an
that was the
option.
sheriff's concern, because he needs radios now. You need them August, September-ish,
Right.
if not tomorrow.
It's a lot different programming a mobile or portable radio and
Correct.
handing it over to the customer, and then putting fixed equipment, hanging antennas and microwave and making all that work.
Also, as stated the other day, don't we have to pay an additional amount of money to have the current towers when tested for weight?
Yes, to do a structural analysis on the towers?
Structural engineering, yeah.
Yes. So all of the towers that we will touch, which includes the 5 that we're adding in this proposal, will have to have a structural analysis done on to make sure that what we are putting on the towers is actually viable and will be structurally sound from both a liability and just a structural standpoint. So all that is included. If you saw at the bottom of the pricing page, there was a project supplement line, and this is actually not money that's going towards Motorola, but it is a supplement to what is the unknowns coming from the structural analysis of the towers. So we can't run structural analysis on the towers until the project has begun, and until then, we don't know what the tower's loading will be. So
We suggested 500,
$500,000
just to make sure we're covered.
for any tower remediations, things of that nature. And if it comes to the point that a tower is so expensive, then we will actually look at a different site as a cost measure instead.
I can give you an example of that. When the state went on the Lynch Hill Tower, there's 4 entities on the Lynch Hill Tower, Coffee County, Bedford County, Rutherford County, and the state of Tennessee. When they wanted to add their microwave hubs to Short Mountain and Marshall County, they did a structural analysis. You would think that tower would hold anything. Well, it will. But it had a lot of old junk on it. Old mounts, old cross bridges, and all that stuff that provided wind loading on it. So they did a structural analysis and found out that, hey, we can't put these additional dishes on here. So they spent, I think, something over $100,000 removing 70-something thousand pounds of metal that was non-structural components of that tower. They were just hanging on it, and hauled it down that hill to the scrapyard. And so the last time I heard, I don't know what's been added since I left here, but it was at like 82% or something or another, once they did their stuff. So that's the type of thing that has to be looked at. And
Correct.
what you're gonna add and what you've got there that you can take off.
Correct, and that's part of that. All that supplement is not for Motorola. That is, it's a fund that, if it needs to be used, will be used for the towers, but it's in no way, shape, or form. If you don't use it, it's
And you
still...
will need it.
Correct. I mean, that's what we plan for. I mean, hopefully we don't need it, but we'd like to plan for
Rutherford
it
County
in case we did. Yep.
Okay, gentlemen, where do we go from here?
Do you need anything from us tonight?
Well, I think you have a decision, Commissioner. Do you want to save the $1 million and sign the contract prior to end of our fiscal year, June 30th? Or if you're not ready to make that decision, then you make the decision after the first of the year. We don't meet in July, but take your time. You know, that's your decision. We're going to probably go to the bond market in August or September. Keeping that in mind, look at the calendar. When you want to, we can go to the bond market anytime on a project like this. And then once it gets, I think this committee should look at, do we want to do it? Are we ready to do it? What direction we go? Then when it gets back to budget, then we'll have 3 options. We've asked them to give us the full price, which they have. They've given us a price this fiscal year, and then what the price is going to be after fiscal year. We've asked them to give us a price on leasing through Motorola Leasing. And we also have gotten a quote. I got a quote just last week from Tennessee. Robert, you had some concern about that. I think it was Tennessee Municipal League.
Yeah.
They have a loan program as well. It used to be a variable fund, but now it's a fixed rate fund. So those options would be available for the budget committee to decide how and make the full recommendation to the full commission of how to pay for it. If you all decide, don't surge yourself with the money, just decide, is it time for us to move forward on this big of an expenditure? I think the majority of people will say they've been kicking the can down the road, and we can't continue patching it like Commissioner Gurley did for several years. We're out of Band-Aids, I believe.
I personally think it's time to move. And if we can save $1 million, we know this is the direction we want to go. And to me, it would not be very frugal if we didn't save $1 million, no matter what the end result is, whether, it's leased or what the bond issue or municipal league or whatever. But this had been rolling for a long, long time. I mean, years, 10 years plus. I mean, probably 15 or 20.
More than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been good. We're at the point that it's like the sheriff's office needs radios now, and we need to start tying all these emergency services in together. And we've been presented with some very great information, great plans over the past period, and it makes sense to tie in. And future tie-in, if Lamar and Smyrna want to come in, they have that ability. It's there. But the bigger we get, the more that we need to integrate and work together. And this is one of the few ways that we can always do it on top of that. So, I don't know if it's premature, but I'd like to make a motion to move forward.
But I think we need one thing clarification,
Okay.
Commissioner, and that's whether we're going to move forward with the 12-site design, which
Or the 10.
or the 10-site design, keeping in mind that the 12-site design may wind up being more of an integration with the other entities.
My understanding, the recommendation was 10, but we can do the other sites later, when the time comes, right? So I would say the 10 right now, and then it's going to be a while before they get all this put together and the other portables. I mean, if you look at the information here, receiving shipments, equipment, if we do it now, you're going to be having this stuff in here before the end of the year and start moving forward. If we don't, it's going to be next year again, and we're still pondering.
Mm-hmm.
So I make a move, we move ahead to 10 sites.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and we have a second on the 10 sites. More discussion, any other discussion? If not, call the roll.
Commissioner Urban,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon.
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley.
Yes.
Commissioner P.
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
Commissioner Reed.
Yes. Okay, we'll send this on.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
This is a major step. We've all discussed it, talked about it.
Can I copy that before I give it back to you?
All right, youth services. State supplement, that was grant contract, I believe.
I'm Todd Savage. I'm Assistant Director of Youth Services. And what this is, it's a state supplemental contract it's actually from the Department of Children's Services. We've had this grant for many, many years. We used to have to get it, we would do it in $9,000 blocks every year, but now they do 45 for 5. So it doesn't involve us spending any money at all. It actually involves us receiving money. So all they require of us is get our 15 hours a year in-service training in and send them a couple of reports with numbers about juvenile court and juvenile crime and whatnot.
Is this the same thing we approved last year?
You approved it in 2014.
Okay, so it's been,
I think 2014 was the first year it went to a 5-year block.
but it covered this past year, so what, it's the same thing that we've been in for the last 4 or 5 years?
Yes. This would go through June 30th of 24. What's that?
Next 5 years.
Next 5 years.
Make a motion to approve the application for the government contract.
Okay, have a second?
Second.
Sereno? I guess we'll have to, this is just proving the contract though, isn't it? Do we need to?
You can do that.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? It is approved. Thank you. Okay, Recovery Court report. I think we got 2 grants in there.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I know you're here.
I was watching. I was in the green room.
She didn't want to come in from this last deal we had.
I watched it.
Last night, it was, she was the majesty last night.
Yes.
She was the queen.
Okay.
Queen of the green room.
Okay, so Recovery Court, I'm going to do the first 2. Well, the ones that I'm bringing forward to you are the 2 grants
Okay, the grants.
requesting approval of acceptance of grants of the Tennessee Veterans Treatment Court Initiative in the amount of $70,000
Okay.
and the Tennessee Certified Recovery Court Program in the amount of $107,500. We've had those grants for some time. The 70 one was a multi-year, it's the next year. We've had it since 16-17 fiscal year. The one that's $107,500 we've had since 14-15 fiscal year. Prior to that, that grant was about $50,000. Sorry, $50,000.
But they're both of the same length, right?
Yes, but it's next year's grants
Okay.
for next year.
Can we do both of them at once?
I would think so.
Well, they're mentioning funds on the
No matching.
All right, do I have a motion?
Move to approve both.
Second.
And Commissioner Gurley seconds. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Those carry.
And Alyssa has all the rest.
All right, we'll let you,
Oh, okay.
we'll let you give the report then.
Okay, we'll go over the Recovery Court report first. For those of you that I haven't met before, I'm Alyssa Phillips. I'm the Assistant Director down at the Probation Department. As far as the participants we have right now in the Mental Health Court, we've got 27 right now for the month of April. In Drug Court, we currently have 42. We've also had 4 graduate for the month of April as well. Our DUI participants, we have 52 currently, as well as that additional 4 that graduated from the program as well. And then in our Veterans Court, we have 19 participants, up from 17 last month. Overall, it seems like everything statistically is pretty much the same as far as numbers go for the courts.
All right. We have a motion to approve the report.
Motion to approve the report.
Motion. Have a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Second by Commissioner Burley. Motion is made by Commissioner Peak. All right, we have the financial. Is that the?
I do have the probation reports too. Are you staying for that too?
Oh, I can go. I'll be back later.
All right, for the probation department, our total revenue for the month of April was $38,833.63. Our total expenditures for the month was $118,021.44. That leaves us a difference at $79,187.81. The total VPAs that were entered, that we turned over to the court to collect was $29,080, just in probation fees. Those that failed to enter a VPA with the clerk's office in April was $51,847. So that leaves us, the total amount that we've turned over for the clerk to collect on voluntary payment agreements this fiscal year is $151,423.25. As far as the financials go, I also attached another report too. It's called a termination report. I wanted to kind of give general idea as far as you know, you hear a lot about supervision and such, but to be able to have something to look at to see as far as what we're looking at as far as cases go that were terminated. In other words, those that successfully completed probation, those that entered a voluntary payment agreement, those that didn't, those that maybe were ordered to serve their sentence out. So that's on that second report there. And it just kind of breaks it down. You'll see a difference in the number of people versus the number of cases. Supervision that was modified by the judge or the court. That's going to mean if the judge or the court saw it fit to dismiss and terminate the probation based on, it could be a number of different reasons, whether they completed whatever conditions that the court ordered. But that's where we see the total people of 79 there. Expired without action, that's a 6 total there, paying directly to the clerk. That was 90 people that entered a payment agreement of the number that I gave you previously. Those that failed to enter a VPA were 107 people. So that number does, outweigh the ones that actually did enter the payment agreement. Early termination or payment of condition, those are the individuals that completed the conditions of their probation previous to their term ending. They did not have to enter a payment agreement because they actually paid all their court costs and fines and completed whatever conditions that they were to meet. All conditions completed would be a number 14. Those individuals are the individuals where they finished out the term of their probation through its entirety and then completed the conditions at the end of their term. So every now and then we'll have a case that's fully supervised. They have to meet conditions, but they're court required to report for the entire 1129 or 6 months. And then lastly would be supervision revoked by the judge or the court. That was 10. Those 10 individuals were ordered to serve out their sentence in its entirety in the month of April.
Any questions?
Anything in that financial report that jumps out? Is it just kind of common? Is it about the same we've been looking at?
It's about the same that we've been looking at. It's just trending downward. I think our hands get tied. Everybody's hands kind of get tied when it comes to the lawsuit and the settlement. So as far as that goes, I see it just the same, but I see a downward trend as far as revenue goes. Sure.
Okay.
Move to approve the probation report, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Phillips makes a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Seconded. Commissioner Cameron. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Did a very good job tonight.
Well, thank you. It was.
Thank you.
I was a little nervous, but okay. Thank you all.
Sound like a pro to me. Fire and rescue.
For the month of April, we had 402 calls, 5 structure fires, 230 medical calls, 25 NVAs with injuries, and 38 without injuries. Year-to-date call volume is 1,745 calls. We run a total of 958 medical calls, a total of 18 structure fires, 248 motor vehicle accidents. 100 of those were with injuries and 148 were without. We did 5 extrications. And then the total county call volume, including the volunteers, run numbers, we had 37 structure fires, 55 brush fires, 32 vehicle fires, 454 MVAs, 5 of those were extrications, and for a total of 2,208 calls. The next sheet is what I turned into the codes department for damaged structures. The next sheet is the arson investigation, or the fire investigation report. We had 6 of those. And then the next page is just showing where we closed on the cases. The next sheet shows me we have a Tennessee alarms installation we get from the State Fire Marshal's Office. We've installed 2 of those, and of course we have the 2017 Fire Prevention and Safety Grant installations. We've done 70 of those, and 40 of those safe awake alarms were installed last month. And that's for the hearing impaired. And that concludes my report, other than I handed out a report that Commissioner Phillips asked me to report on. I'll just include that. I give you an Excel spreadsheet. And it shows the stations. Of course, we've kind of taken over SORT, and those guys are fire trained, and they're running fire calls along with medical calls like the other 2 stations are. So if we complete this, we'll have 6 staff stations. The facilities that we want to build anticipate a minimum of a 50-year service life. We want to build a 12,000 square foot facility, which is this includes fire and EMS. That will have the capability of there'll be masonry units, a concrete slab, and metal roof. The facility will be designed to be as low maintenance as possible. The facility will be designed to accommodate 3 shifts of 8 fire personnel, as well as 3 shifts of 2 EMS personnel. Of course, we want to have adequate living space, locker space, sleeping space, shower, fitness, and storage, and maintenance provide for 24/7 staffing. Apparatus bays will consist of 3 drive-through spaces and be large enough to house a minimum of 2 fire apparatus, as well as 1 EMS transport unit. The minimum depth of those bays will be 50 feet. That way, as we move forward, we continue to expand and grow. If we ever have to buy a ladder truck, an arrow, it will house that. All these facilities will also have, that we build, have an office space dedicated for the sheriff's deputy to be able to respond there, or be there at night, drop in, do reports, use the restroom anytime they need, so they have access to every one of these stations. So it's basically designed to be a public safety building. So it'll be big for fire, EMS, and sheriff's office. And of course, they'll have access to coffee pot or whatever they need. You're up at night all night long. You need some Joe to keep you going. The minimum lot size construction facility, we should be 2 acres, preferably 3. The timetable for each of these projects is anticipated for 3 years with the architectural engineering processes. There's an assumed increase in construction costs of 5% annually, so that's 10% over 2 years. And if you look at the sheet, it kind of shows you what the architectural drawings will cost for the Rockvale station, and then of course the construction, and then of course the third year to buy the furniture and the appliances that will go in that station. And then of course we increase that. Each construction will increase 10% because you're looking at a 2-year span. And total cost of the project for the stations will be $26 million, but counting personnel, which will be a recurring cost, you're looking at $33 million. And it shows you the breakdown at the bottom of the personnel, what each station would cost to man those.
When you did your study, did you have EMS work with this study with you?
Well, when we start designing the building, they'll be involved in it.
No, I'm talking about the sites that you've got here.
Well, this here is
work
what
with EMS to decide this is where they needed sites to.
this is based on what Kevin reported the CTAS study.
So the answer is no.
Well, I didn't do the study. CTAS did the study. But
And that was presented back in
March. It was back in March.
So I just want to know if EMS had input on where these stations are going.
I mean, no, to be honest with you,
they did during the transition before Cuz was actually named, but in talking with his predecessor, Mr. Nunley did state that Rockvale was probably, he agreed with the study, Rockvale was probably the first location for fire and co-locating EMS at that point in time.
Yeah, he said that would give us a lot closer response to Eagleville.
That's what I'm worried about is, we need to well, our distance that we're covering.
Correct.
And, you know, which ones we're prioritizing to go first. It might be different from EMS than it is from fire.
Yes, I think Mike had, Mr. Nunley had said that would give them that good space right there at Rockville, somewhere around actually, we looked at Rockville School, and then when Jim Thompson stepped forward, Mr. Chairman, and offered his piece of property, which is right down the road, it actually puts it a little bit closer to Eagleville. And so he hasn't dedicated that piece of property, but all we got to do is just get him to go ahead and do it. But I think that would be a good first location for us. And this is just an overall picture that you'd asked for him to do. So this is probably a couple of years down the road anyway, right?
This was a request of Commissioner Phillips, is what it was. But when you're talking about that, and in particular, just in this one instance right here, our new director has already implemented a situation that deals with exactly that station, I guess is what you would say. There is already, whenever the ambulance leaves Eagleville now, there's an ambulance sitting in Rockville. I saw it the other day when I come through there. There's one there.
Director Hudgens already has a...
It's already got one in route.
Well, yeah, sitting there in the park.
There's been a problem out there due to the fact that when that one leaves the station, sometimes that station is empty quite a long time, and you have to bring an ambulance from a fairly long distance. And that's a large area out there, so that's...
Well, you don't have a lot of growth,
So that's a situation that's already
Kittrell
been
is second on that list. Was it Kittrell was second? Christian.
Yeah, actually, John Brackett was toward the bottom. Of course, now, as we move forward with this, our new public safety director will work with EMS and me and him both, and we determine...
5 years, things can change.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is just, basically, it is both the CTAS study, and Commissioner Phillips asked me to give a cost, what it would cost to build those in 10 years. Of course, if EMS has a bigger need to go somewhere, we could build that station. I mean, this is not in concrete. It's just an outline what the cost will increase and be over a period of 10
Well,
years.
my main comment was, we don't need to be doing this in a silo.
That's right.
You know, you need to be looking at what EMS is doing, what even the sheriff's department needs there, and do it as a group, and even Murfreesboro City. You know, we need to cooperate more. I think we're headed down that road. I want to make sure we continue down that road.
But like I say, this was done in March, and Commissioner Phillips at that time asked me to give a report of what it costs to do this.
My whole thought process was, let's take a snapshot as to where we see us going over the next 10 years. It'll be tweaked, it'll change dramatically, probably, and a lot of it hinges upon economics and what the county's going through over the next 10 years as well. You know, this whole thing could be implemented, the whole thing could be scrapped, depends on economics. We're not approving anything other than just looking at what your plan is. And as a planner,
you proven planning.
That's right. As a planner, I like to see those kind of things.
And Commissioner P, to answer your question, with the new public safety director, Kevin Lyer, coming on, and me and him and Carl, because with all of us working together, I mean, that would be a decision that we'll be bouncing off each other, and we'll make as a group. So I have no intention of pushing this plan for myself. But I mean, that's one of the reasons that the mayor wanted to bring on a director. That way we all work better together and we decide what's best for the county.
Okay, sir.
Are you through with your report?
Yes, sir.
Have any questions on his report?
Well, I don't have any questions on the report. Do you need a motion on the report?
I need a motion on the report.
I'll make a motion to approve the report.
We have a motion. Commissioner Gordy, second by Commissioner Irwin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Commissioner P.
I wanted to bring up something that is not on the agenda here, but being chairman of budget, I can't advance a motion being chairman. And I've looked at our budget for fire, okay? Just so y'all know, we're proposing to give the fire department this year $5,686,133. $250,000 of that at $50,000 each for the 5 volunteer fire departments. That was $300,000 last year, and we lost Fosterville's fire department. So that cut down to $250,000. What I would like to propose is to help the volunteer firefighters, that $50,000 that was going to Fosterville, I'd like to divide equally between the 5 remaining volunteer fire departments, which would be a $10,000 increase each, but it's not actually over what the budget was last year. And the reason I bring this up, you know, our volunteers, he was just mentioning plans for the future here. I forget what part of what he was mentioning on his budget is his payroll is going to be, I had it written down here, Larry, you may have to help me with that. What was it, 33 million, or 3,300,000? Where is my number? At any rate, my point is, most of the cost of supporting this fire department is going to be for personnel. Where we've got active volunteers, we are helping ourselves by keeping that cost down. Now, the reason I'm asking again for this money to go toward them, just talking to the chief out at Kittrell, he's got between 10 and 14 new people out there. Well, that's all well and good, and we're really proud to have them, and they're doing exactly what they need to be doing. But it costs a little bit to put them in a suit, to dress them for success, to put them in a fire turnout gear. It's $2,000 a piece. Well, 14 people, and you can add that up real quick, that $10,000 is not going to get there. But that's my proposal, and I'd like to make in the form of a motion that we add to his budget the $50,000 that was going to Fosterville, or that may be reallocated somewhere else, but to put $10,000 each in the 5 remaining departments, which that's not an increase over last year. So that's my motion.
So your motion is to basically to increase from $50,000 to $60,000
That's
for
right.
the 5 volunteer fire departments that are remaining.
All right, so that'd make that a total of what, 300,000 to
Basically be the same amount going to the volunteers as it was last year, but minus that one station that gives everybody.
Have a motion, do you have a second? Commissioner Irwin?
I know, I can say that I've had conversation with Animal, and, you know, we're down to 5 volunteer fire departments, and we need to keep those 5 viable, and I think most of them realize that as things evolve in the county, eventually they will go away at some point in time, but as long as they're viable, we can't get human resources any cheaper. If we don't support these volunteer fire departments, then they're going to go away. So, yes, I think it's a good thing.
Well, I think as long as we can get volunteers to volunteer, I think we need to utilize them. And like I tell most departments, as long as y'all keep doing what you need to do and do the best you can do, the county's going to continue to support them. And part of these stations we build, there will be room in those stations if the volunteers want to come and staff and run with a paid personnel that can do that.
Mayor?
Just one question. I support the motion. Does that affect your budget at Fosterville by taking that $50,000 away?
Yeah, because I took that 50 and incorporated it into the internet and.
So how short you gonna be?
I don't know. I have to look at it.
Okay. Also, Mr. Chairman, I've asked, we're changing property and casualty insurers. I've asked Mr. Elam, after the insurance committee meeting last week, to check into our current carrier, or not, excuse me, our new carrier starting July 1, to see if there's a way that they can take all of that $50,000 that we're giving to those departments mainly is to buy insurance and to cover the insurance on the vehicles, on the trucks that we give them, because that's the biggest line item that they currently have.
The biggest liability they have is on their apparatus.
Yes. So could we actually, if this new carrier is willing to add all those apparatuses onto the current policy and work out a way to name each one of the volunteer fire departments? It may not be possible, but it's worth asking if we could offset that money by putting them onto our master policy and name them as additional named insurers onto that policy, we might be able to save a little bit of money.
That'd save the volunteer fire department's probably $30,000 a year.
And that way, we do have a higher deductible than what we currently had. It's hard for me to imagine the volunteer units only have a, what, 500?
They have I think 1,000 deductible on the apparatus and $250 on the small equipment.
Yeah, we have a much higher deductible, but by that savings, we don't wreck them that frequently, knock on wood, that we could, the county could absorb that deductible if we could save that money and apply it towards one. So that's another angle we can look at. But your motion is probably a good one, but we're going to need to make help him at Fosterville for the shortage, by taking that way.
What I was going to suggest is you withdraw that motion and make a motion to increase the funding for volunteer fire departments from $50,000 to $60,000.
Well, that was my intent. Like I said,
Sure.
You know,
And that way we
what
don't
I was
mess with
pointing
his
out
budget.
is this is not an increase for volunteers over last year if you're considering that the 50,000 for possible was there. So I wasn't asking for an increase, was my point.
Yeah, but
You know, where the funding comes from.
But
we can
50
take
that I
from
took incorporated in
undesignated
mine.
fund balance as far as that goes, but that wasn't part of my motion. My motion is to give them 60,000 of the 5 remaining departments.
Also, and I think y'all passed my budget, and I think the budget has approved the budget, not the salaries, but in that budget, I increased my vehicle maintenance budget because we're going to take care of all the county fire engines that they have. That the ones that are tied to the county, we're going to provide the preventative maintenance and the maintenance period. If anything was to be inoperable, we're going to pay to fix that. So that's going to take another part of the weight off them as far as finances.
All right, we have a motion, but did you read that motion back? We'll see.
Well, currently, it is to add $50,000 to the fire rescue budget to increase the 4 remaining remaining volunteer fire departments from 50,000 to 60,000.
And if we do that motion, that won't affect what I've already done. It just adds to it. Yeah, because you just get putting what I've incorporated into the fire foster budget. If you do it more than that, it's just going to raise it up, budget more. So we'll be good.
Okay.
If I understand that right.
Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Commissioner Urban?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips? Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips, is that what you was looking for?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Once again, it's not anything we're.
Oh, I know.
It's just a map for
Give
us.
something to think about.
Where we want to get to and when we want to get there. Thank you. Appreciate you doing that work, Chief.
Okay, pause. Michael?
By the way, I found my number. It was 33 million.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. For the month of April, we had 526 animals come into the shelter. You can see the breakdown by jurisdictions there. Down at the bottom, the biggest thing that I'd like to point out is the third line from the bottom, the live release rate, which is the things that we're really looking at. We had 95.8% of our dogs go back out of the shelter alive, 93.1% of our cats, and overall 93.7% when you include the wildlife as well.
93% cats.
I never thought we would see a euthanasia rate for cats at 2%.
All right.
I went back and did some looking today, and we were over 60% consistently across the board, dogs, cats, and wildlife. So for us to be there is really something.
Is that because of the release system you got going? Or?
It's because of everything. It's been a total effort. It's a big pie. The biggest thing that I think's made the difference on the youth rate has been the cats going back out. But I think also the spay-neuter efforts that we've been doing to prevent those litters from being born in the first place has seen these numbers drop.
When you say going back out, you're talking about in adoption.
Yeah, back out through the trap neuter release program.
Okay.
And there's not that many There's not that many that are going out TNR really. It's just been a collective effort. So, second page, we had 1,499 calls received for the month. We had 1,600 calls that were completed. You see the breakdown there as well. And we traveled 11,000 miles. Fiscal year to date, our release rate down at the bottom of that, 91.0% thus far for the fiscal year. You can see the breakdown of the calls and the mileage there. And in the last page of the report, Commissioner Reed, I'm sorry to have to report that we have a Rockville positive skunk on there again, so that will remain on there until the end of the year. But I was able to get you January, February, and March before it came back on. So, and that's the, we had 34 bite cases and 8 other exposures, only sent 1 off for testing. And actually that skunk came on in March, the meeting that we didn't have to present.
So how does that make us rank statewide?
Right now, statewide, I believe, if I recall, there was only 9 or 10. We're not now. I think Williamson's already had 1 this year. Davidson County's had 1, and then most of them are pretty concentrated over in East Tennessee. I think there's been 9 total cases across the state. There for a while, we were running number 1 by far.
I'd heard that. That's why I was asking. So.
Yeah, right now, we're pretty good. Last year, we only had that 1 all year in Rockville zone, and the same on this one.
So you got his cousin again.
Well, the dog did. The dog did. So, did want to report, I haven't had an opportunity to tell you this yet, the incident that occurred at the convenience center, that dog was surrendered to our shelter yesterday. So that incident is taking care of itself now.
Okay. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Any reports on birds?
Yes, sir. Update on birds. It's been called. I went downstairs and helped the officer catch it about an hour ago, and they're trying to get it to a rehab facility to see what's going on.
Was it all?
It did move from the corner there and went under several cars, and went underneath the Christmas tree and got caught. So she was able to grab it, and it ran out, and we netted it, and it's gone. So.
It's a small hog.
Yeah.
Yes. It was trying to fly, but it could never really get off about a foot off the ground.
Okay. I hear a motion to approve the reports. Motion, Commissioner Irwin. Second. Hammond. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed? Thank you. Thank you, sir. Emergency management.
EMA. There we go.
I'm Carrie Clark. I'm the operations coordinator for Emergency Management Agency. I'm just going to touch on a few things. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. This past month, staff participated in HMO and HMA Train the Trainer. That's something that we do at EMA. The state has rewritten that program, so they finally released it to the trainers to train back out that new program. We also worked with GIS to come up with overlays for disasters in the EOC operation, so we can kind of have a bigger view of what's going on in the county as far as where the damage is, where the floods are, so we can overlay everything on the map, roadblocks and everything, just easier access for the people working in the EOC to view that information. Next month, we're going to have, well, actually tomorrow, we're going to a damage assessment workshop. We are hoping, I've actually been to that before, but I'm going to kind of get a refresher. We'd like to bring that to the county and get all the departments involved in doing that damage assessment. Active shooter training, that's in full force. I believe that we're working with police, SO, fire, EMS, everybody in that county to get that training. So we have 2 of those coming up next month. EOC, ESC briefing and training. That is a tentative date that's scheduled for the 10th of next month. With our new public safety director, that date probably will move. We need all the department heads to be trained in EOC operations, and we haven't done a good job of that lately, so we're hoping to improve that. Volunteer search and rescue training is also coming up. That is also with the Sheriff's Department. We're excited about it. We're trying to get a team of volunteers that we can call on to do search and rescue, even help in the incident command with mapping and stuff like that. So that's exciting. That's coming up on the 15th, and the Sheriff's Department is leading that, but we're assisting with that. And that kind of concludes my report. Oh, one other thing, I'm sorry. We are providing communication support at Bonnaroo. It will not be personnel, but we're providing a tower and radio system for the fire crews there. We will have somebody that will randomly drive over and check it just to make sure everything's functioning properly.
Does Peter get that assignment to go there?
I'm always out of town that weekend.
So you get somebody really good playing that night.
We can go Friday.
Never Friday.
Okay, I hear a motion to approve the report.
So moved.
Commissioner Pete, have a second. Commissioner Irwin. All those in favor of approving the report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I believe you have a budget amendment.
Yes, sir. So we would like to move funds, roughly $2,250, from the communication equipment, line 708, into communication line 307. That is the line for cell phones, radios, radio IDs, MiFi, and EOC telephones. With the fees had gone up, and we just need to move some money over there to pay the bills.
$20,000.
$2,250.
2,250.
Oh, yeah, I see that. I'm sorry. You're okay under the equipment line item? You're okay?
Yes, sir.
Move to approve.
Motion's been made to approve. Second. Commissioner Gurley. Call the roll.
Commissioner Urban?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Pete?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes. Okay, that's your report, I believe.
Carrie, before you take off, I wanted to tell you, just looking at this report, it's making me smile. And I want to tell you all, I appreciate what y'all done down there and where you've been and where you're going. And I think you're headed in a good direction right now, and you've got some help on the way.
Yeah.
So I'm proud to see that, but I'm also proud to see what y'all have already done on your own. And that tells me he's got a good staff to work with. So thank y'all.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, juvenile detention report.
Good evening.
So in front of you have our report for the month of April. And I can tell you that our Sumner County check as well as our Coffee County check has come in. So that just leaves Benton and Marion County. As usual, we don't expect that to be a problem. The bills and public safety usually just cross in the mail, so to speak. This last month, our positivity report for chlamydia has been off the charts for our STDs. It's the highest percentage month that we've had so far. So that is interesting. We have a lot of young people who are getting treated, leaving, coming back, and having to be treated again. So I think they're all just sharing, unfortunately. Beyond that, I don't think there's anything that stands out too terribly much with the report for April. But I'll be happy to answer questions if you have any.
Any questions anyone might have? Ms. Booth?
Move to approve the report, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made. Approved. Second by Commissioner Gammon. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Approved. I believe you've got a MOU.
Yes, this is a MOU between the Juvenile Detention Center and the Rutherford County Board of Education. It is exactly the same as the last MOU for supplemental educational services that we had last year. This is not for your basic education that we provide at juvenile detention through that MOU. This is supplemental, so it's going to be additional items that are above and beyond that basic education. We do a free team parenting class with this, as well as we have some manipulatives that we use in our classrooms that help them get involved in their education while they're with us, perhaps a little more than they might normally. So that's just an agreement between us and the Board of Education to provide those services.
Okay, do we have a question or motion?
I move to approve the contract.
Motion, taken. Have a second, I hear a second. Mr. Shannon, okay. Approve the contract, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
How's your turnover?
We, right now, only have open part-time positions. So let's don't ever talk about it again. And we're crossing our fingers.
It's better.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Correctional Work Center report.
Mr. Chairman, might I make a comment before Bill gets started? What I'd like for Bill to do is tell the members a story about Bella that happened just this past week, and how the intergovernmental agencies' relationship of working together is actually, it's a heartwarming story. Bill, if you'll share this story with the members.
Well, if you'll remember, in our budget, we asked for the drug detection dog. And the mayor and I decided that it was probably best to put that to the side and use that money to be better spent for utilities and my clothing and that type of thing. So I guess it was about 2 weeks ago. I was sitting in our boardroom and we were getting ready to do interviews, and just happened to have one of our sergeants sit in on the interviews, who normally doesn't, but he was filling in for another sergeant. I got a text from, well, it actually came from Lynn. Lynn sent a text and said, can you call Michael? And I said, sure, you know. I called Michael, and he said, hey, I was just thinking about it, and we thinking about how, you know, you took the dog out of your budget, and said, we just got a retired drug dog in here. And he said, you know, would you, if the mayor's okay with it and we passed it, would you guys want to adopt it and use it? I'm just thinking, oh, I don't know. She's a 7-year-old dog, and and then the sergeant who was in the room with me could hear the phone conversation. And just so happens he and his wife and their kids had lost their 12 or so year pet. And so he's in the background, Bill, I'll take it. Bill, I'll take it. I'll take her. I'll take her. So I told Michael, I said, we'll take a look at her. And Michael sent me some pictures, and Sergeant Trinan went over and took a look at the dog, and I mean, she just immediately took to him. And here's some pictures I brought along, but this is Sergeant Trinan and Bella, and this is Bella at home with his 2 daughters. So I'll just kind of pass that around. But needless to say, Adam, Sergeant Trinan went over and picked the dog up. Michael helped him with all the paperwork, and he brought her back to the facility, and I mean, she just took to him like, they've known each other forever. And so, needless to say, Michael's going to help with the food, and then we have a vet on staff with Paul's, and so he's going to help with those matters. And we contacted the sheriff's office, and Lee Young came over, and Virginia, you know Lee, and Lee handles their canine unit, and So Lee came over and he hid some cocaine and some marijuana outside, and she hit on it immediately. And so right now we're just getting her acclimated into the facility. Being outside, being an outside canine dog is a lot different from being a correctional canine dog, but she is really taken to it. We evacuated a housing unit, took her in there, and she found a pipe that was actually inside the wall and had been there for a long time. I'm talking like probably a couple years. So she found that immediately. And, you know, it's just been a great thing for the staff. I think Diane's got a...
Your whole staff.
Oh, definitely. I think Diane's got a biscuit bowl that she keeps in her office, and where she used to keep chocolates, and I'd stop by, and now she doesn't have that. She has biscuits. So it's just been a really great...
I like chocolate-covered biscuits.
Please don't do that, Diane. But it really goes to show, and of course I've been working for Rutherford County and spent 11 years at the sheriff's office and now 9 at the work center, and I think we collectively have the best cooperation and teamwork that we could ever ask for. You know, that morning, as a matter of fact, Sheriff called me in very early that morning, woke me up, as a matter of fact, I believe, and asked me if I wanted some gardening tools, you know, and it's just that's the relationship that the departments have, that they can, you know, communicate, work together, cooperate, and they think of each other, and that's just a really good feeling when it comes to working in government, because I've done it my whole entire life, and it's good to see that all the departments work together and do well doing that. You know, we appreciate Michael and Lynn and Sheriff's Department, and you know, just kind of all coming together and making this work. And then obviously the mayor, who's that was his original idea, was to do this, and it's just made a big difference at our department. Wherever you see Sergeant Trinan, you know, Bella's right there beside him, so it's going to be interesting.
Well, it's a cool thing because you've given that dog an extra several years of life.
Definitely.
Somebody could have adopted it out, or you may put it to sleep, but now it's got a home, and she's still working.
She's definitely working.
She's 7 years old, and big dogs don't last that long, but she may get another 7 years. Who knows?
And he will occasionally, he'll crater in the office when he has to go to a meeting or go back and handle something in one of the units. And I went in there to use the microwave this morning to heat up some sausage, and I was unaware that she was in there. Needless to say, she barks really loud. She is a deterrent to sneaking around. Let's put it that way.
Until it started flushing as she goes down the hall.
That's for sure. If she's going down the hall, you know, the inmate network starts going, and you start hearing toilets flushing. So it will be a you know, and you know, we have the vans that constantly we have to search, not just our department but other municipalities and departments too. So. It's just going to be a great tool for us.
Let's get started.
Now and in the long run also.
Good deal. Well, let's move into your report then.
Well, the report I'll be brief about. There's not a whole lot of significant change from last month, just moving right along with our, we had our May meeting this month, and you know, some of the things that were discussed was mostly our proposed budget, and you know, our board agreed with everything that we had proposed, and so that's going well. Our work release program, absolutely fantastic. We're contacted by AWP, a company that's nationwide, recently, and they want to do a pilot program here in Rutherford County using our work release. So we're working out the kinks and the bugs of that. Hopefully we'll be able to get that up and running pretty soon. Our yearly activity report, as you can see, our numbers, thanks to Sheriff's Office for keeping our numbers up, and we're keeping, I know there was a time when we got down to, less than 100 inmates, and now we're right around 200 any day, 170 to 200. Our monthly worker report, if you'll take a look at that, projected total combined savings of $133,444 that we use by using inmate labor. That's what we get. If you'll notice on the state litter pickup, that's up $1,152 this past month. That's up drastically from the months previously. And I'll talk a little bit more about that once we get into the new contract, the new TDOT contract. But I just want you to make a mental note of that, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But that's our report for this month.
Any questions? One might have. If not, we'll entertain a motion. Anyone? Motion to accept. Commissioner Gamble makes the motion. Second. Second, Commissioner Irwin. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Yes, sir. On your contract.
All right, we started the yearly negotiations on the contract for Tennessee Department of Transportation for our litter pickup. In the past, we've been paid $46.50 a mile for litter pickup. And they assign the state roads that they want picked up. We pick them up on about a six time a year cycle. But meeting with them in the past week, what they've projected that we do, and I think it's an exciting idea, and I really want to be able to work with this and help them out. They want to raise that number from $46.50 a month, or I'm sorry, a mile, to $75 a mile. And they want to add state roads, some more mileage to that, and they want to add the interstates. Okay. So basically, they want us, Rutherford County, to do all of our litter pickup. And along with that, certain, safety concerns come into play. For instance, the inmates won't be out in the middle of the road picking up things. We would call TDOT to come and do that. Mobile meth labs on the side of the road, dead animals, things of that nature. But the normal litter pickup, we would increase. Now that would go from, I think we're currently at $32,000.
About $32,000.
$32,000 a year, and that would go to $83,000 a year that we'd be bringing back into the general fund by having inmates pick up litter.
Bill, do you have, if you get these new vans, would you use those? I've talked to the sheriff, and of course you can't use blue lights on the interstate, but we need to make sure that if you got some good equipment out there on the interstates, the way cars fly up and down, everybody's properly dressed, and we need proper signals, warning signals.
And Mike and I talked, a few days ago about some amber and white. We've been using some amber and white before, but he gave me some specific brand that we're going to look at putting on those new ones, but definitely. For instance, I'll give you a prime example of our vehicles. Today, I had to take the one van that we had working that could actually pull the Porta-John, because you got to have one of those out on the highway. We had to take it back to the armory to get repaired because the brakes went out on it. That's not necessarily something that you want A, while you're driving down the road, or B, while one of these guys are using that porta-john. So, it's just, that's nature of the beast. But yes, to answer your question, Mayor, the vehicles, I can't stress it enough how important it is. And we're definitely going to need some if we start doing this. But we're talking about an increase of, $50,000 a year that would come back into the general fund by having inmate labor pick up litter.
And I've noticed our interstates between here and Nashville are just, because it's busier, is getting more and more trashy.
It is, and to their defense, I talked to Tennessee Department of Transportation guys about that. They just can't keep up.
Sure.
I think they told us they had
No contract.
5 guys on a team that tried to keep up with it. They just couldn't do it. So it'd just be easier for us to get out there and pick it up. And
Good question.
Yes,
This
sir.
83,000, is that per year or per month?
that's per year.
Per year.
I would need a whole fleet of folks to get out there and make that in a month. But that's on six cycles a year. We go out and do that. So it would continue. I think we're on 4 or 5 right now, but we would amp that up to 6 times a year that we would go out and do that.
Then that go directly to his bottom line? Directly to his bottom line, right? Revenue?
No, that goes back into the general fund. We don't
He's in the general fund.
have any of that.
Okay.
I don't have a bottom line.
You don't have a bottom line.
Your bottom line's not his bottom line?
That's his bottom
His
line.
bottom line.
She watches bottom line.
That's her bottom line. That's Lisa's bottom line.
Okay, so that goes directly into the county's bottom line?
It does.
Yes.
All right. So extra money coming in, that would make your report less costly to the county, correct?
It would.
And if you've got more inmates out there picking up more miles, it's going to reduce the amount of time that inmates are in the workhouse, right?
Well, as soon as they come to the work center, they start receiving that work credit, because we don't just work on the highways or on the streets. They're also doing maintenance. They're also cleaning up the building. So their work credits start the day that they get there. So it's not going to affect the work credits. We're getting them out sooner or anything like that. But according to TCA, they're to be held at hard labor. And it's not exactly any hard labor going on these days. And this will be the hardest of the labor. So would it be a deterrent? Yes. I would think that walking several miles a day is not going to be something that you want to keep doing. So I think it would affect it ultimately.
Okay, sir. Well, gentlemen,
Motion to approve the report.
Commissioner P. makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Well, we're approving the contract.
We're approving the contract.
Excuse me.
Commissioner Phelps, second. All those in favor of the contract, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Amendment.
Got an amendment?
My amendment has a story.
What does it?
And the mayor may kind of give you background about the gentleman who was sick and was racking up a lot of dollars for the county.
Came from the sheriff's department to the workhouse, the collapse, went back. Dr. Rudd took him back for 24-hour observation to the jail because he had 24-hour service there. He contracted meningitis. I think it was a diagnosis, and I think we ended up sending him to Centennial. Racked up close to $500,000 worth of.
That was $1.5 million.
$1.5 million worth of bills since the last week of October. Fortunately, Dr. Rudd was able to go down and negotiate with HCA at Centennial and was able to get it down to 250,000. We brought him back after he was released from Centennial and got him out to community care. So he's acquired fees from community care, okay? And I think
that's where this picks
that's where this
up.
comes in.
So he was kind of furloughed. It's kind of a period of time when he really wasn't ours, but he wasn't theirs, but we've got responsibility for his bill at community care. We're requesting the amendment of $42,000 in his budget so we can pay this out. The flip side to this, with our new insurance transition, they found out that the insurance department had incorrectly billed community care for their premiums to the
Last year.
insurance fund.
Last year.
2017 is when it happened.
2 years ago.
Yes. So they owe the county over $100,000. So we are offsetting this. This will help offset what they owe us.
But you still need a motion to.
I need a motion to
appropriate
approve
that money.
$42,000, and this is really, it's paying community care for the services.
But, yeah, she and I discussed this, so it's motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve the amendment and a second.
And these are things that you can't obviously predict. He came in with that disorder and wasn't. It's not something you diagnose. You have to specifically test for what he had. So luckily we did catch it. So could have been a lot worse.
We'll need to do a roll call vote on this. So, Madam Secretary.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Peay?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes. Okay. Is that the story for the night?
Done with me.
Well, I would like to mention that this involves you, Preble. In 2 years, I have gone without a budget amendment.
Yeah.
For 2 years.
Over 200 and you're staying, I've got 919.
And the sheriff was jealous of that. He is a co-conspirator with Lisa.
Wait till you see what we do next week.
Oh, man.
We send him home.
Some fun. You gotta have a little fun.
All right, Sheriff.
Sheriff, I believe that you all released him of his, he doesn't have to go back to jail, that gentleman, so he's been released of his time.
I don't think you can do that.
Okay.
We just released him when he got sick.
No, he'd be perfectly healthy after, until he comes back.
All right. We're ready for your report.
I don't really do a report. Y'all ask me questions about what we send y'all. I have an amendment.
I've looked through this thing. I don't see anything really unusual as it relates to expenditures and remaining funds. Everything kind of looks pretty darn good. I move to accept the report.
Okay, Commissioner Phillips. Motion.
We're not having
Sereno, seconds.
increased
All those in
food or
favor of approving the report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I believe you have an amendment, you
I
said.
do have an amendment, and I hate it because I really want to use this money for resurfacing, but gotta do what you gotta do. Need to pay our utilities. So I'm moving $110,000 in different improvements here from food prep, food supply, building improvement, communication equipment to utilities. And this should get May and June taken care of based on our averages.
I'll move to approve the amendment as requested.
Okay, motion made to approve the second. I need a second from Commissioner Gammon. Call the roll.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Peay?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
We increase our budget for utilities for next year.
Oh, yeah. That's gonna only gonna keep going up. Especially once the new water tax and all the sewer tax, which we have to do all that, so the city's gets an increase it, that's coming to us. So we're gonna pay taxes.
That got you. All right. Oh, shucks, wasn't it?
Afternoon, everybody.
Almost evening, isn't it? It's evening.
It is good evening.
Yeah, right, well,
I'm filling in for
That
Dan.
closed the gate right well.
I'm filling in for Dan today. He's gone to Florida, Pensacola, to see his his granddaughter graduate. And he even offered to come back. He was coming back today. He said, "I will come to the meeting." I said, "No, Dad."
That's dedication.
It is. He was very dedicated. So anyway, I'll go through this OSHA report pretty quickly for you. Accident frequency for April 2019. You can see the slips, trips, struck by, strains. And as you get down to the bottom, you see a total of 32 for the month of April. Your accident frequency year-to-date for the calendar is 83. Your OSHA log summary year-to-date, total recordables are 54. Restricted day claims, you'll see a total of 24 for the year. Lost day claims, you'll see 12. Other recordables, you'll see 18. If you look at the totals, you have claim count at 32, and total incurred is $68,223. On-the-job injury claims, year-to-date, you'll see where you have 2017, there was 74, 2018, there was 91, and 2019, you'll see that there's a total of 83. On-the-job injury occurred in dollars this time year-to-date. 2017, there was 119. 2018, there was $241,000. 2019, you'll see $172,000, and that's for the 4 months. Your next page, you'll see a graph at the total that's incurred, and it's broken up by the division of the Board of Education. You'll see a total of 21, with a total incurred of $22,160. And then for county highway, you'll see one claim for $840. Your next claim for county general, you'll see 10 claims for $45,223. And then based on location, those 10 claims, you'll see ambulance service, there was 3. And one of those was an accident not caused by the drivers of ambulance service, but there was 2 people in the accident two people in the ambulance when it occurred, and they were not making a run. This is where someone pulled out in front of them. And you'll see 5 with the sheriffs. You'll see 1 with solid waste and 1 with animal services for a total of 10. And that's the conclusion of my report.
Okay. Any questions anyone might have?
Move to approve the report, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made to approve. Mr. Phillips, second.
Second.
Sereno, all those in favor of the report? Say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries.
Hey, just
Thank you, sir.
Quick footnote, that injury at the road board highway department is really unusual. They do work where, I get hurt walking through my yard sometimes, but the work that they do, and their accident injury ratio is phenomenal. the way they do.
It is, and there's one thing that I will say about the highway department that I don't think they get enough credit for as a first responder. When you have a tornado or you have something where there's a lot of debris, they're one of the first ones trying to clear the roads with the sheriff's department and ambulances to get them out there. And I mean, when you're in that type of a pressure-packed situation, everybody is pushed to the limits. So they do an outstanding job. And you're right, that, their claims are the type of work that they do. $840 is not a very high claim for them. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, ambulance service with new director, Director Hudgens.
Thank you.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Peter gave me a nickname, PC.
What do you want to pull? We don't pull that out.
Okay, in the month of April, we had 2,766 calls. And this is something I'm very proud of. I couldn't even sleep last night thinking about it. Our average response time is down to 6.6. That's a record for the ambulance service.
It is.
Great job.
And we'll see what I can do to even improve that.
Good luck.
Our number of DOAs for the month were 62, and 15 of those went for autopsies. Total billed was $1,491,298. Collections are $720,473. Year to date is $6,881,935. Projected collections is $8,258,322. Our collection rate is at 87%, and I believe that's going to improve. And our write-offs are $665,821. Our write-offs is $13,324. Any questions?
I'd just like to compliment you on the 6.6.
I'm very proud of it.
I've been harping on that for the last 5 years, ever since I've been on the commission, and anytime you can get it down below 7, I'd like to see it at 6. That's going to be hard to achieve. It's going to take a lot of support from
national
It's going to take a lot of support from us as a commission to ever get that down to there. We're going to have to do better, but I'm glad to see without any additional support from the commission, it's coming down. It's great. Just seconds make lives.
And that's the report. Glad to answer any questions if I have any.
Any questions anyone might have on his report there? As I mentioned earlier, Carl come to me a few weeks ago about saying that he was going to make these changes with the roaming ambulances, and especially that one out there at Rockvale. When I went through there other afternoon and saw that ambulance sitting over there at the middle school, I'd have to say that to me was a pretty sight to see, because I hadn't seen that before. To see one stationed out there ready to go in case there was some type of problem, and that was so much appreciated. And I've actually heard from some other people say, I saw that ambulance out there, what is it doing out there? And when I told them what it was, they come out and said, that's great. We really appreciate that. So you've started in a direction. I think the county will be wanting to see this, and I think that's going to affect this response time and what we're doing out here too. Any other questions on the report? Your motion to approve this report?
Move to approve.
Second. Mr. Gurley, second. Mr. Cannon, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And I believe you have an amendment.
We have several.
Several amendments, okay.
We have run out of funding in our gasoline line item, so we're requesting to put $35,000 in, and we're taking that $10,000 from our in-service training, $10,000 from our communication, and $15,000 from our utilities. And also, we have a deficit, or will have a deficit in our supervisors' payroll. We've had a total of 4 supervisors leave this year, so we've had to pay out their annual time, which has left us with a deficit. We're requesting to move $35,000 from our paraprofessionals' payroll into the supervisors' payroll. And the other one is we're requesting to move $25,000 from our part-time personnel payroll into our overtime payroll. This is the second time we've requested to move funds. We still have a lot of people on FMLA, several on OJI. And then the next page is for our convalescent division. Our call volume is increasing daily, and we're requesting to move $7,000 out of our full-time paraprofessionals payroll and requesting to put $5,000 into our part-time payroll and $2,000 into our overtime payroll. Questions?
Okay, so the number is increasing in the convalescent?
Yes, sir. I believe we had 266 transports in April.
Okay, so we have 2 amendments that you have here. We take those individually. We'll start with the first one that deals with the gasoline. Okay. Motion's made to approve. Second, Commissioner Phillips' motion. Mayor, second. Commissioner Gurley, second. Call the roll.
Well, is this per page or just that one?
Can't we just take them all together?
Well, you got 2 different amendments. You want to take
Are
them
they
all
all
together?
within your budget? Yes, sir.
Just take them all together?
I think you should be able to.
Just take them all together then?
I move to approve.
Okay, so let's call the roll. Both of them.
Commissioner Urban?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before they leave, let me, if I could publicly before this committee, just say it's a thank you from the County Commission Mayor's Office when I named both of them, Ms. Machoto and Mr. Hudgens, both as interim. Melody on the inside and Carl on the outside, and they came together and started working for the department on an interim basis, and they held it together and actually started making improvements, and they were excited about it. And I think you'll see a new attitude in the department. So I just want to publicly say thank you for you all stepping up and working for Rutherford County in the way that you've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right, we have one more item on the agenda.
Director.
Is the dead stock removal contract 2019-2020. I don't believe it is on your iPad. I have a copy of it. I have the two here. It's the same contract that we have had over the past several years, all going through the South Central Tennessee Development District. The way it works, it begins on the first day of July to handle all of our live animals, anything over 75 pounds. They will not pick up anything over 10,000 pounds. So I don't know what that is. This is an elephant, I don't know.
Cut it in half.
But what's involved in this is that they say they will remove the animal within 48 hours of notification, 5 days a week, excluding holidays. And all they have to do is bring it within 25 feet of gravel or paved surface for them to pick it up. It is the same process.
Contract the same price?
Contract is not the same price. In fact, I had that amount right here. This time it is $38,269.12. It's exactly $2,166 more.
Vote to approve.
Got a motion to approve. Do I hear a second? Second down there, Mr. Gurley. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, sir. And if any of you have a situation where you are needing to call them, I've got the number. Because they call me quite often. Call me very often out in my district out there on this situation, so.
Let's hear the number.
Huh?
Let's hear the number.
I'm not going to do it right now. But anybody wants to call me, I will give you that to do it, because I've had situations where I've had people complaining if it's left there on very hot days, and I call in and urge them to get a little bit faster. But where you have a lot of livestock, this does happen.
Miss Vicki gets a lot of calls too.
Yes, so they'll call in the mayor's office here too. Or Paul's, you can call Paul's.
Paul's will take care of it.
Paul's will take care of it. Anything else needs to come before this committee? Okay, one other thing. Our normal meeting date on the last Monday in June, that date has already been held for budget. They'll be meeting on that night. The only open date is June the 20th. That is, it doesn't mean that we have to meet in June. Committee's preference.
Could we just not meet unless we see that we're going to do
have to. That's been the past.
Departments with budget amendments all of a sudden?
All of a sudden. But that's the way it's been in the past.
That's the way it's been in the past.
The problem with doing that, it would go 2 months almost without meeting, and reports back up. I'm not sure why the budget committee trumps this committee anyway. Why should they? It's advertised.
Commissioner Phillips, are you saying we just should go ahead and just...
I'm saying it was advertised first of the year, and
just go ahead.
I'm not sure why we would change it.
Okay, so if everybody's agreement, we'll meet June 20th.
June 20th?
No.
He's wanting to meet 28th.
24.
No, the 24th is what he's wanting.
The reason for that is because it's on my calendar.
When are we meeting?
Well, the 24th is not available. It's already booked.
If there's just regular reports, I don't mind canceling the thing, but if we get in the habit of canceling meetings, I'm not sure we're doing our due diligence to the public. And I'd rather meet instead of going 2 months without meeting. I understand July.
It does. I get calls from different departments saying I'm in a situation where I am needing to get, and I think the chairman of budget hears my phone calls at different times. I'm sending you somebody that needs to come before budget.
It'll be a short meeting.
We'll just go ahead and meet the 20th if it's okay with everyone. We'll meet the 20th.
That's on a Thursday night?
I believe it is. Thursday night. Okay? All right. If there's nothing else, I move the meeting adjourned.